You know, some people build empires of land, but this guy, he built an empire of the mind. Today we're going to uncover the story of Confucius, a teacher whose ideas on harmony would go on to shape one of the world's oldest civilizations.
So let's just start with this. Think about it. What if one teacher's words, not a king's commands, just words, became the moral compass for an entire civilization, guiding how people think, how they lead, and how they live for like over 2,000 years?
So to really get why his ideas were so radical, we got to go back. We need to understand the world that forged him, a world that was just steeped in chaos, division, and conflict.
And this really just lays it all out, doesn't it? On one side, you've got the brutal reality of his time, warring kingdoms, moral decay, a total breakdown of trust. And on the other side, you have his idea. His solution wasn't more power, it wasn't sharper weapons. No, it was all about inner virtue, education, and harmony.
So the man at the center of all this was Confucius, or as we know him, Confucius. He was born way back in 551 BCE, and he basically had a front-row seat to the slow, messy collapse of the old dynasty. You had all these local warlords just tearing the country apart. It was an age that had, well, completely lost its way.
So looking at all this violence, what does Confucius do? He proposes something totally revolutionary. He argues that peace, you're never going to win it with a sword. He believed that real, lasting order had to be built from the inside out, starting with personal wisdom and, collective virtue.
Okay, so what was this code of harmony he taught? What does it all mean? Let's break down his core principles.
First up, and this is at the absolute heart of his philosophy, is the concept of Ren. Just think of it as benevolence or humaneness. For Confucius, Ren is that deep-down compassion that connects every single one of us. It's kind of like the essential spark of what makes us human.
Next up, we have Li, and this one is fascinating because it's way more than just ritual. Think of Li as the blueprint for social harmony. It's all the unspoken rules, the ceremonies, the everyday manners, all the things that let us express our Ren in the right way. It's what separates just feeling compassionate from actually knowing how to show it with respect.
And finally, we have Shao, which is filial piety. Basically, it's a deep, profound respect for your parents, your elders, and your ancestors. And you can't overstate how crucial this was. For Confucius, the family was like the ultimate training ground for being a good person. He believed that if you could learn how to be a good son or a good parent, well, you'd have the tools to take that morality and apply it to the rest of society.
And this is where it all comes together. You see the logic, right? It all starts with you, the individual, cultivating that inner goodness, that Ren. Then, that virtue gets practiced and perfected inside the family through Shao. And from there, it just naturally flows outward to create this ordered, harmonious society that's governed by Li.
So, the big takeaway here is this. For Confucius, you just can't build a good society without good people. Simple as that. The political order is really just a mirror reflecting our own personal moral character. It all starts from within.
But you might be wondering, how did these ideas even spread? I mean, Confucius never ruled a kingdom. He wasn't a general. He wasn't a king. His power, it came from somewhere else entirely. He was a teacher.
So after he died, his loyal students, they gathered up everything, his sayings, his dialogues, his lessons, and they compiled it all into one of the most influential books in human history, the Analects. This book became the key source for his whole philosophy, basically preserving his voice forever.
And inside, you'll find all these timeless bits of wisdom, including his version of what we call the Golden Rule. Do not do to others what you do not want done to yourself. So simple, so profound, and yeah, completely universal.
He also laid out his vision for the ideal ruler, what he called the junzi, or noble person. He argued that a leader has to govern by moral example. Their own personal virtue, that's their greatest political tool. Forget about coercion and fear. A good ruler inspires loyalty through respect, through propriety, and through a real, genuine concern for the people's well-being.
Okay, now this is where the story gets really incredible. Because after he died, Confucius's influence didn't just fade away, it exploded.
Just take a look at this. We're talking more than 300 years after he died, and his philosophy becomes the official state ideology of China's powerful Han dynasty. From there, it just spreads all across East Asia. We're talking Korea, Japan, Vietnam, and it has continued to shape ethical values for over 2,500 years. It's amazing. And his ideas, they didn't just exist in a vacuum. No, they blended with other huge philosophies like Taoism and Buddhism. They became deeply woven into the spiritual and cultural DNA of East Asia. They all influenced each other, creating this really rich and complex tapestry of thought.
For centuries, Confucianism was literally the ethical backbone of Chinese civilization. It defined everything: the purpose of education, the structure of government, the duties inside a family, even the very meaning of what it was to live a good life.
And you know what? Even today, his voice still echoes. When we talk about respecting our elders, or fulfilling our duties to the community, or how important it is to keep improving ourselves, well, we're touching on ideas that were absolutely central to his philosophy.
So what's his ultimate legacy? It really boils down to this. He didn't conquer lands, he didn't forge empires of iron and stone, he built character.
And that leaves us with one final thought, one final question for you. How does a philosophy that was born from ancient chaos 2,500 years ago still offer us lessons on harmony, duty, and respect in our own crazy, complex modern world?